Everybody, welcome to the Traitors finale roundtable event slash Survivor slash Deal or No Deal Island crossover event. I am Joe Manganiello, host of Deal or No Deal Island, along with my trusty sidekick Bubbles, and I am joined. I am joined by three legends, absolute legends. We've got first Boston Rob Mariano from Survivor and Deal or No Deal Island. And we've got Sandra Diaz Twine, two-time Survivor winner and Traitors contestant. And we've got Kate Chastain, who everybody knows, who is a reality star turned gamer who loves a muddy challenge. And we are here to talk about the Traitors finale, which we've all seen, but the folks out there are about to check out. Kate, I want to start with you. Before being cast on Traitors, I hear that you're a fan of Deal or No Deal Island. Is that true?
Yeah, I love it.
Great. Were you aware of who first Sandra was, and were you aware of who Boston Rob was?
Sandra, don't hate me, but I had heard of Boston Rob, but I had not heard of you. But I did my homework, and I mean, you won twice. It's pretty iconic.
So you knew you were coming in, and you knew there was someone who was great at the social game.
Having played Traitors already my first season, I was really immersed in this gamer's world. It really is your own universe. The Big Brother people knew the Survivor people. They kind of like maybe sometimes did shows together. And we had a lot of downtime at the castle, Sandra, and like waiting for the challenges or the missions. And so I would hear them talking, and I try to like pick up on like I didn't know what social strategy meant before my first season, but now I did. So coming into the second season, I would try to be more of a gamer.
Kate, I gotta interrupt. I just gotta say, I watched you on both seasons of Traitors, and you are a rock star. Like literally complete natural. I watched you in your interviews during the season, after, in the actual gameplay. So I don't know, you were definitely born for this role because you were super entertaining, and I loved watching every minute of it.
Thank you. Does that mean I'm officially a gamer? If Boston Rob says I'm a gamer, am I a gamer?
I mean, you know you're a gamer, so don't play
You're a
that game
gamer,
with
yeah.
me, okay? And
I'm a gamer.
Sandra, we have a lot of history, and I got to tell you, I think you stepped up to the plate again. Everybody knew you would. You obviously had a huge target on you, with your reputation, but just super entertaining all around, and I'm a huge fan.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
And Sandra, what is it like entering into a competition with a lot of people who are familiar with a social experiment type of game? You've played Survivor with people who weren't, say, reality stars before, but people that are comfortable in front of the camera, people that are okay with strategy, that understand how to win. What was it like entering into a season with like a level playing field?
Well, I don't feel like it was equal because the housewives are different when it comes to strategy and stuff like that. But like Kate, they picked up on it very quick. But I feel like the gamers are always ready to press the button and start going. And then it just takes them maybe a day or two. And then, everyone else is also on board either by choice or not by choice. Like they don't have sometimes you can't even give them an opportunity to decide how you want to play the game. Let's go. But when I saw Kate, I was like, oh, if she's upset about maybe Sari in season one, how that played out, I was like, I gotta cozy up to Kate and make sure that she likes me and that I'm gonna be okay with her. So I definitely went in knowing that whether they watched Survivor or not, they knew who won season one, and that essentially follows everyone else that's also in those footsteps. Like anybody from Survivor moving forward, going into play in season three has an uphill battle. It's just how it is.
Right. And along those lines, and I want to ask Rob this next, what are some of the skills from Survivor that were applicable for you stepping into the Traders?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's crossover not only with Survivor but all competition reality shows in general. I mean, the most obvious on the surface, the challenge aspect of it. You have to compete. You see that in Deal or No Deal Island also. That excursion challenge aspect of the game where you can win a shield or immunity or the highest case value, that's a big part of the game. So you have to be physical. I know in the past I've watched Sandra. She liked to sit out on the bench. I saw her on Traders actually competing in the challenges. I was super impressed. Great job with that. But I think the biggest thing is the social part of the game and that strategic manipulation that you see in all of the competition reality shows. And of course, the most important element is when things don't go your way, how well you're able to adapt to it. And the people that have experienced this over a number of years with different shows, I feel like they're better able to handle that stress and that pressure. On the flip side of the coin, what Sandra was saying about the housewives, the bond that they have together, you know, naturally makes them a target also. You know, the way the game is played with alliances and sub alliances, but at the same time, you're looking for the trader. I think you need to rely on your intuition, your social skills. And I think those are the biggest carryovers between all of the competition reality shows.
But also understanding, like, in your own words, Rob, the reverse. If you are a housewife, if you're willing to murder a housewife, then that helps to hide your own tracks.
So
So,
yes, if you're thinking on that level, but if you're thinking on another level, then it's like becomes super obvious. If you're a housewife, you're gonna murder a housewife because that's what they're gonna expect. And then you get into this leveling game, which makes it so intriguing. And I think that's why everybody is so fixated on traders right now. Kate, what I loved about the way that you approached it was that, like, in your confessionals, you would tell the truth. You would tell the audience exactly how you felt, what the situation was. And I feel like I've done that. Sandra does that. All the best players do that. But where I feel like you took it to the next level was that outside of the confessionals, right to people's faces, you also gave them the same story. And that was just so entertaining to watch.
Kate, what were your
Exciting.
adjustments like? Yeah, what were your adjustments like going from season one to season two? Like, what did you realize in the interim? Like, what did you want to do differently?
I really felt like it was going to be hard to top my first season because my approach was so foreign to the gaming world where I was actively trying to get eliminated, and that's actually what got me so far. Like, I don't think anybody's ever used that strategy. I mean, I really did want to go home at the time, but it did end up being, a pretty good strategy. I made it very far. But this time I was like, well, if I'm going back, I can't really be like, I don't want to be here. So I had to play the game a little bit more. And I liked it. I liked it so much because I'm sure, as you all noticed, our cast was so good this year. When I first walked into the round table and I looked around at Sandra and Phaedra and John Burkrow and then CT over here, it was like comedy. It was like such strong, unique personalities. It was so great.
Well, you hinted on something interesting that I think people who are fans of reality competition series like see. There's kind of these tropes. Like you find that person who plays the middle, and there are certain games where people spot that they won't let you play the middle, and then there's also this concept of having a shield, and you became this shield. Rob, Sandra, I'm curious to hear from your perspective, playing Survivor, playing Traders. What are you looking for in a shield? And what are some of the
Yeah.
classic shield players that you've played with? Because it is a strategy, it can get you to the end.
I think it was brilliant the first season when Kate like actively tried to get herself eliminated. So I would equate that to in Survivor, if you're super annoying to everyone at camp and literally like just you you're the person that everybody can't stand to have around. You want to get rid of them. If you're a really smart player, you want to keep them. And Kate, I'm not saying you were super annoying. I'm just saying equating that to in Survivor, because you'll always have someone else to get rid of down the line. Kind of like in the first episode of Deal or No Deal Island, where we eliminated Branson, and I kind of petitioned Aaron to keep him because if he continued to be annoying and great on people, well, we can get Stephanie or somebody else out right now, and later on, Branson will always be there. And as a strategy to move forward, I've yet to see it like at Final Tribal Council where somebody stands up and says, that was my strategy and own that. But I think like low key brilliance, right?
Well, I think of like, was it Philip who was the federal agent with the pink underwear?
Yeah.
After episode 2, I was like, I'm not getting rid of that guy. I'll tuck him under my arm and drag him to the end if I have to. He's getting no votes.
And Sandra, you know, could you talk a little bit about, like a little bit about those differences, or like, you know, what was it like switching your game? Because it was interesting for me personally to watch you after Cirie wins in season 1. You know that coming into season 2, and not only like you're not even Cirie, you're a 2-time winner, and so like, what was it like trusting your intuition in this way? What was it like, you know, because there's kind of a metaphysical principle that goes on with this, and I want to talk about that a little bit. But like, what was it like for you to have to read people in that way, as it differs from Survivor to the Traitors?
Well, the difference was also for me that I would ask them like, did you watch Survivor? And they'd be like, no, or they'd say, Dan is the 2-time player. And I'm like, yeah, I never said, like Kate said, she was a 2-time winner, but that, you know, anytime anyone said 2-time winner, they'd say Dan. And I never corrected anyone. I'm like, yeah, he's the 2-time winner, you know, not me. Or simply say, well, did you watch Survivor? Because I remember Phaedra saying to me, you guys are schemers and you backstab and you lie and you cheat and you do this. And I'm like, Phaedra, did you watch Survivor? And she's like, no. And I was like, that's not even how it is, you know? So they're listening to me. But you have to be ready for everything. And I knew that Cirie winning would hurt me, but I wanted to play a social game. And then there were people that, for instance, Trishelle, that was constantly loud. And I'm like, you know, she's going to stay in this game. And if she does, they'll always go after her. Or even Peter, when he started getting messy. So you want these shields, you want these people to stay in as long as possible. And the same for Traitors. If you know who they are, why not work with them? And that's what I thought I had in Dan, Parvati, and Phaedra, traitor angels that were protecting me. And I'll say that till I die. I know they were protecting me.
Well, and I like that you brought up Parvati, because, you know, obviously you show up, there's Parvati, and you have history there. And then of course, you know, Kate, there was a little bit of kind of aftermath, or, you know, kind of you dealing with some of the mess that was happening with Parvati. Kate, can you talk a little bit about your experience with Parvati? And then I want to hear Sandra, kind of when you get there, do you have to kind of be looking over your shoulder because you know somebody's coming from that same gameplay that you come from?
I knew that there was a rivalry between Parvati and Sandra because I'd done my homework. But it was interesting. I asked Parvati, she said she'd done Heroes and Villains with you, right? And I was like, well, which one were you, Parvati? And she was a villain, I believe. And at that point, I already was getting traitor vibes from her anyways. But I'm like, if Survivor's going to cast you as a villain, I bet the traitors will too, you know? But I thought that Parvati was a very skilled liar, which is a great skill in a game like this. I commend her for how far she made it. But I think Sandra was the stronger player in Traitors. Obviously, she made it further. And your social game was so good. And you really had a way of unifying us as the leftovers. I mean, your presentation with the balls on the pool table was amazing. And the fact that you coined the term traitor angel, it's brilliant branding and it's great strategy. And you kind of like explained the game in a way that opened us non-gamers minds to like, oh my gosh, once you explained it, you were like the perfect teacher, like gaming 101.
So I want to switch gears here for a second, you know, because I've I spent a season on Deal or No Deal Island with Rob. And what I've noticed is that people who are great at reality competition shows, they all have some sort of superpower. Okay? Like there's some kind of intangible quality that everyone who's great at it has. And when I met Rob, immediately I started thinking, man, I hope he likes me. I hope this guy wants to be my friend. Like it was the strange magnet that I feel. And when I watched Survivor, when I watched the way that Deal or No Deal Island played out, people look up to you, Rob. They look to you for answers. You're a natural, you have this like leader aura. And then you also have unbelievable luck. It's insanity. It's insane to watch your luck play out. Do you see yourself as having those superpowers, or is there are there other ones that you notice that you have in
I
playing these
do.
games?
I feel like I've always been lucky, right? But like, I also do my homework. I'm persistent. I work really hard, and not only at like competition or whatever, but just like at anything I do. Like, I'm the type of person that I am all or nothing. I'm either all in and we're doing it, or I'm not. Sandra's played games with me. She knows either you're my people or you're not my people. And if you're my people, I'm going to go to war for you. And if you're not, I'm going to do everything to kill you. That's just the way I am. I like being all or nothing.
Joe, can I say something? When I applied for Survivor, and Rob knows this, and they said, "What Survivor are you most like?" I was like, Boston Rob. I had never even met him. And already it was Boston Rob, Boston Rob. And then we go to Heroes and Villains, and I end up in an alliance with Boston Rob of all things.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
he has a way of bringing you in and making you feel included, to where you put your guard down and you feel protected and taken care of by him.
I think
Right, right.
thank you, Sandra. That's really nice. I think like a lot of players that are really good at these games have a lot of the same qualities. Like Sandra's social game is second to none. I said it at the top of this thing, Kate, but you're a natural. Like the way that you're able to read people and assess them so quickly and then figure out how to get in there. Like if I'm playing traders, I want to play with someone like you
Thank
because like there's something about I'm thinking of an example in the current season of Deal or No Deal, like Claudia. What you see is what you get. Now, maybe you like her, maybe you don't like her, but you don't ever have to wonder where you stand with someone like that. That's the type of person that I want to play these games with.
Well, and this is a great. I wanted to ask you this, Rob, and I want to ask Sandra and Kate as well. Rob, have you ever thought when you were watching The Traders, did you think about how I would play this? What would I do?
Of course, of course. You can't watch it and not Monday morning quarterback it, Joe. But I'll tell you this, I'm also smart enough to know that if I did have any kind of strategy or inkling, I'm sure as hell not telling you over here.
Was there anyone's game that you watched and thought, okay, I'd either want to play with them or I would play like that?
I think a lot of the players, specifically in this season, I thought had different elements of different people's games. I really liked. I liked Kate's openness, honesty, like what you see is what you get. I liked Trichelle's intuition and her ability to read the players and see beyond what was right there. She seemed to have good reads all the way through. I really liked the way CT was always gung ho for all the challenges. Uh, Peter had an amazing, second sense of things as well.
Coming off of that, I want to know, based on your experience with Rob, Heroes and Villains, would Rob make a better faithful or a better trader?
He would have to be a traitor, because his days in that castle would be numbered anyway. To at least, with the advantage of being a traitor, he can murder people that are already throwing his name out there. That's the advantage of being a traitor, that you can take advantage of situations and and come out on top. Like if you know who's talking too much or doing too much, like you could just take them out, meat shields. But with Rob, he wouldn't have a choice. If he's not a traitor, he's going to be sent home as a faithful anyway.
All right, Rob, there. I got my
I
answer.
mean, I don't even know. Sandra, you know better to bet against me at this point. But I do think it would be a lot more fun to play as a traitor, but I think I would be really good at playing as a faithful. I was watching the episode before the finale last week, Kate, at the round table. The last thing you said about Phaedra, about, she was a selfish player. Like from me sitting at home reading that, she did something outrageous to blow your cover.
We discussed this at the reunion. But one thing I didn't say at the reunion, I was so annoyed that once I got drafted to be a traitor, I was like, cool, what's going on? This is the turret. Okay. I thought there was another draft left. Like, I was like, so who are we going to bring next? MJ? I really was. But then when I found out, like, wait a second. Or I was like, or we bring Kevin and we could like use him as a little pawn trader, But once I found out there were no more recruitments, I was like, we are not going to do well. Like here,
Yeah.
like this is not going to work out for us.
That brings up a really good point. If you're going to be a trader, you have to be with other traders that are smart and good and know what they're doing. Otherwise, it becomes like a crutch to you. It's not an advantage. It becomes a disadvantage.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been able to recruit Kevin and then throw him to the faithful.
Oh, yeah.
Sandra, I say this at some point. You kept talking about Trader Angel. What you didn't know is I was your Trader Angel. I was your Trader Angel for a while. I was never gonna let you get murdered.
No,
this is Joe. Joe, what you're watching right now is classic reality TV contestants after the fact.
Yeah.
Like Kate saying what she's saying now, she's still in game mode. She's playing for whatever else is coming next. And
Right.
Sandra's been doing it for 20 years. I've watched it. So don't let them fool you, Joe.
Look, I'm trying to go on Deal or No Deal Island.
Well, okay, then that's a good segue then, Sandra. What do you notice? What are the differences between Survivor, Traitors, Deal or No Deal Island? Like, how does Deal or No Deal Island to you stand out? Like, what makes you say that you want to be on our show?
The prize pot is way bigger if you can even get there, But I feel like a lot of the players are like the players in the castle. Like Boston Rob is the strategist, and we have several strategists, and there's other people that are now realizing that, hey, I need to be with like Rob and Aaron and Claudia. Like, for instance, this Alyssa girl, she's playing with Aaron and she's giving him the tidbits, but Aaron is close to Boston Rob, so she's getting in there versus the Kim lady, right? That's being brash and annoying. She's kind of like a meat shield. But for me, with Deal or No Deal Island, it's like, okay, I'm back on a beautiful island, but with amenities.
Joe, that's what I was going to say, Joe. That's what she meant to say, was they have a bed, there's food, tell them about the differences that matter to you, the amenities.
Yeah, the challenges and the missions are about the same. On Survivor, they're really, really hard. But on the Traitors and Deal or No Deal, from what I've seen so far, because I've watched the 2 episodes, they're similar. But for me, what motivates me is that big suitcase.
I mean, Rob, you talk about, Kate still being in game mode, Sandra still being in game mode. Are you still in game mode? Are you still on the island in some way?
And when you're watching Traitors, life is a game. You know that. Life's a game, buddy. If you stop playing, you die.
Sure. Well, that's the thing. When I get done with a theater role or a movie, I still have to decompress. So everything I watch is kind of colored by that. I think Traitors and Deal or No Deal Island, what's so great about the game mechanics, and Kate, I want to ask you a little bit about this, is the fact that you are working cooperatively to gain more money for a group pot, while also looking over your shoulder, knowing full well you're probably going to have to get rid of someone to get that money at the same time. It's all happening simultaneously, which in my mind, creates more tension. Kate, would you agree with that? Or how was it for you to to always be looking over your shoulder at these people that you're working together with at the same time.
Yeah, that was something very difficult for me, especially my first season. Everyone was like high-fiving each other at these really, exhausting, sometimes really gross missions. They're like, "Yay, we did it." I'm like, "Why are we high-fiving? Like, we're probably not going to see this money, and the person you're high-fiving is probably going to murder you tonight." Like, it was hard for me to like muster up the morale because I mean, it's true. Like, here I am. I'm just supposed to do all this gross, hard stuff for people that I can't trust. It was like, but then, my second season, you kind of, it's good. It is fun to do work as a team. It's a really nice break from the stress of the castle, like whispering, strategizing. The missions are to raise money, but they're also just as much to kind of give the cast members' brains a little bit of a break and like bring people together and just like get out of the castle, go do some exercise, get your endorphins going, and then come back to the round table and fight.
Yeah, and Sandra, you were, I mean, the difference is obviously, to this style of gameplay. What was that like for you living under that type of pressure?
For me, I don't feel like it was a lot of pressure. It was more or less trying to figure out where everyone was. Like Kate said, I think we were all getting along, but there was division. There was the most faithful of the faithful and the leftovers, and which turned the castle upside down, which was a benefit for me. Because then I'm like, okay, these people are gonna get taken out regardless.
And Rob, on Deal or No Deal Island, it's something that watching you play, watching the other players play, that I wrestled with was how much can you trust those alliances on Deal or No Deal Island because of the way that it's set up.
And you really, that kind of like, it's kind of a little bit of the reason why I decided to align with Aaron in the beginning. Other than the fact that like seemed like a nice kid, we had some mutual interactions and whatever, but I also realized early on that the format of the game gives a lot of power to the people that end up on the bottom. Meaning that the people that end up on the bottom, if they win the coin flip of Deal or No Deal and win that game, they can essentially take out anybody they want. So to me, strategically, it makes sense for me to be aligned with people that will end up on the bottom more and won't take me out, so that they can potentially get rid of somebody that we want to get rid of. And, at the same time, it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't hurt my game.
I want to double back to something that Rob was talking about, where, and this is kind of like spoiler territory, but the episode that is coming out this week on Deal or No Deal Island, there actually really is an interesting social game that gets played. There you see how the social aspect to the game actually brings people together and then completely fractures it, and how that plays out in this next episode, where you talk about the power that someone has on the bottom, but it's also the idea that the game is set up in a way that you could win immunity socially, which is something that doesn't necessarily happen in other games. Like, you could actually, there was, without giving things away, immunity was earned by a social construct, by the way that, and also by the way that luck played out.
Is that a popularity contest? I mean, that's basically what it is, right? If you win immunity because of your social game, it's basically saying people like me the most.
Well, Rob, what
Maybe.
would you say about that?
Either, I agree. Like, it could be they like you the most, or you're just really good at like bending their brains a little.
I like you.
There was some brain bending that went on.
Temporarily, probably, because then they're gonna say, wait a minute, he's too good, he's
There
bending.
she is. There she is again, doubting me. She should know better.
Okay, you've been on islands many, many, many times. In your yachting career, how much money would the banker need to put in a briefcase for you to set up another dreaded beach picnic for the entire cast of Deal or No Deal Island?
Oh, less money required for me to set up a beach picnic than it would take more money for me to go through the mud, you know? Like I wouldn't mind like visiting, being like, I prepared this beautiful picnic for you, bye. You know, it would take a lot more money for me to do some of those challenges and missions that y'all are doing.
Give me a dollar figure.
Lots of zeros. Lots and lots of zeros, like at least 6 zeros.
Because we got some mud. We got some mud on the Bankers Island.
I mean, I'll watch the rest of this season. I'm enjoying it so much, and then I'll see how I feel.
Kate, there's bugs over there too.
Not
They're-
these
they're-
bugs on your
Snake.
head.
Kate, there's tents with fans. If you need
I'm just
Ben,
saying,
the
ask-
banker's
ask for more
assistant, he'll
money.
come out and fan you, and they got delicious iced tea.
It looked very chic. It was almost like Tulum. Glamping. You're glamping.
It was like
And
the
there was a
3
yacht.
seasons.
There was a yacht. I would make my way onto that yacht somehow. That's what I would do.
Rob, I have one final question for you. Would you say, having seen all of my outfits on Deal or No Deal Island, would you say that like this is SAT, would you say that what Alan Cumming is to tartan plaid, I am to leopard print?
That's 100% yes, for sure. I would even say that because of your wardrobe choices, because of the fact that they were in a jungle and not in a castle, that you, my friend, may have been even bolder.
I would like to issue a challenge to Alan Cumming to switch costumes. I come out in a kilt and some tartan. Alan, you come out in some leopard.
And
Oh, he'll do
loafers.
it. He'll do it.
And some Gucci loafers.
And some Gucci loafers. Yes, we'll get Dolce Gabbana to hook Alan up with some amazing Jaguar print. Kate, you're nodding your head.
I love this.
You could supervise, you could style this, Kate.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I want to
Amazing.
thank all of you for participating and coming out to talk. Rob, you know, with saying goodbye to traders, there's going to be lots of talking going on in the wake of it. And of course, you know, for people who love traders and love that social game, Deal or No Deal Island will continue on throughout our season. This week is a banger. Episode
Monday
night.
10
And
p.m.
Tuesday on Peacock, The Rumble in the Jungle. This was an absolutely insane episode in which there is an act of God. There was a 20-minute screaming match that culminated with a 100-foot jungle tree falling about 50 yards away from where we were standing mid-argument. It was like the screaming knocked this tree over.
I've literally been doing reality TV for over 20 years, and I can unequivocally say this was one of the most epic episodes I've ever been a part of.
It was
So
insane.
you
And the
definitely
way
don't
that-
want to miss it.
The way that the excursion and the challenge lays out the social game, there's this agreement, and the way that it plays out there in gameplay,
Yeah.
everything that could go wrong goes wrong. It's absolutely insane. All the tea gets spilled. Rob, what else can people expect from the rest of the season of Deal or No Deal Island?
You know, it just every single episode, that unpredictability. And that's what I love about, you know, Deal or No Deal Island, Survivor, Traders, all of it. You don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, just when you think you've got it figured out, they switch it up on you and you don't. So I would say definitely tune in. It's going to be an awesome episode Monday night. And thank you to everybody from Traders. It's been so fun watching this season. You guys are legends. Sandra, you know I love you. Kate, welcome. I officially welcome you into the Legend family.
Thank you. So honored.
All right. And everybody enjoy the finale of Traders.